we ready for a reboot? I don't know if you noticed, but there is a massive restructuring underway. This pandemic has certainly and inevitably given birth to whole new ways for the human race to connect with itself, and has certainly brought to the surface the underlying postulates of dysfunctional and disconnected patterns that have led us to dead ends, on the demand that their role in this cosmic game be played out to their natural ending. Endings that so often blend in with new beginnings. At their core, these dysfunctional patterns ultimately give us the gift of context. Have you ever walked out of a situation that's gotten so messed up that you are finally able to see through the guises of your previous ignorances that have made you susceptible to those scenarios in the first place? This is the stepping stone to maturity right here, assuming that you don't walk out of it jaded, covering the whole of the world by that one lens of particular happenstance. When you've exhausted all your means and the soul is left with nothing to give, when you run nuclear dry and all the hopes and sentiment that you have invested in those wayward strands to nowhere unravel, leaving you with nothing but echoes in your cup, as the last drop evaporates in the heat of the clarifying moment. That is precisely the beginning of possibility, if you're willing to see it that way, rather than trying to hold on for dear life to the phenomenon which is trying to pass. Pluto has been getting a lot of love lately, holding together various love triangles with different planets, acting as the tie-in for many different complex aspects as of late. The eclipse keeps the themes of death and rebirth moving along. In fact, perhaps death and rebirth are the only things that really keep moving. Everything else is simply a detail other than the stillness of consciousness behind it all. This quintile love triangle between Pluto, Venus, and Chiron at the moment of the eclipse in Gemini and Sagittarius suggests that, ready or not, we are in the rebuild phase. This is something that you can choose to do consciously or not. Whether you choose, whatever you do, we will all be pivoting ourselves to rebuild value systems, how we relate to one another, what we choose to connect over. This is a love triangle between the deeper psychic vehicle of spiritual transformation within us, how we intertwine and dance with our inner alchemical processes and use them to manifest our relationships with the holy other in order to derive support and bear the fruits of the intimacy of our connections, and in turn literally creating the world. Venus in Scorpio. A triangle between the wisdom learned through the suffering of simply existing in a body, of raw individual being in a flesh vessel, left with a consciousness that is capable of, and often does, perceive itself as separate from source, as it is tasked with remembering that it is not a dismembered member of the whole, but rather a fractal embodiment of that source designed to manifest itself in full frequency and in harmonic equilibrium with the totality of the cosmos, so that its oneness can be realized as a wholeness rather than abandonment by a cruel and unapproachable universe. A triangle between the total breakdown and rebuild of governance, of infrastructure, of guiding principles. What have we learned about simply doing as we're told? Where have you been getting your orders from? Whether we're building the chain of command at the highest levels of human and maybe even alien authority, or restructuring phosphate groups and neuronal structures connecting with the pineal gland. Rest assured, this is a top-down, bottom-up phenomenon. And the acquired ego and the inherited identity are probably not going to be comfortable with any of this, at least not in the collective sense. The saving grace to this particular configuration is that while this extreme dynamic is at play, the lights go out. For a moment, personal patterns of clinging to that which is meant to be reformed down to the cellular level, of trying to make that which is meant to be impermanent permanent, that slate becomes blank. It's not personal anymore. Oh, you can definitely rush back and try to make it so, but your hands are going to be slapped out of that cookie jar pretty quickly, and probably from a direction that you won't see coming. So, what would you do with a fresh start? What would you do if the voice of the logos reached into your mind and reached into your heart and told you that you are free right now to commune with divinity in any way that your soul feels fit? That the only caveat is that you have to make something of it and keep that connection beating through your heart. To discern between romantic and self-aggrandized whimsy and true evolutionary responsibility. The stars align in this particular moment to offer this discernment, or if you wish to view the planets as a contemplative timepiece for archetypal moments in endless mutual dynamic with one another, rather than as actual proprietors of will themselves. And that seems constructive to do so. There is a coolness from the intensity of this time available to us through the means of breaking things down as rationally and objectively as possible, so that what we do rebuild off of the momentum of this pivot actually serves a purpose beyond itself, but using the means readily available. So with this eclipse, go through the belly of the beast. Do it and then reconstruct and review using exactly what's in front of you.